Let's welcome to the show someone who was a member of the WWE staff for over 20 years. One hell of a referee, Jimmy Korderas. Jimmy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, man.
Whenever I came to a show when I was, growing up or breaking in, first thing I wanted to know is who am I working with. The second thing I want to know is who's the referee,
Right.
because a referee is so important. A good referee is so
Yeah.
important for the drama of the match to unfold. People don't understand how how intense your job really is in the ring.
Well, thank you for that. I don't think a lot of fans don't realize exactly the job of a referee. They kind of assume that basically you're in there to, you know, wave your hands around, pretend like you're enforcing some rules, count three when you have to count. But there's so much more involved to it. Like the referee is there to help the talent tell their story. Like you're kind of like a conduit that helps with communication because the guys can't just walk up to each other and say, "Yeah, okay, shoot me and duck the line, whatever, stuff like that."
Right.
They'll say to the referee as they're selling, and you go over to check on him, "Hey, tell him to do this." So now your job is to go over and relay that message without making it look obvious, like you're relaying a message. So it has to be in the course of like you're doing your job. It's a lot of creative liberties because it is wrestling, but at the same time, you try to not make it look so obvious. And there's other little things you have to be aware of talent, safety of talent, of course, because as you know, in wrestling, I know we've seen the risk level rise over the last couple of years with some of the stuff that the guys are doing in the
Oh
ring.
yeah.
And God bless them because there's some really, really talented athletic guys. But as a referee, you have to be cognizant of potential injuries and look for signs, certain signs, especially if it feels like somebody got dinged, you know, got their bell
Right.
rung, sort of thing.
Sure.
So, we're taught to look for certain signs, little signals that we have to check on talent because the boys sometimes are their own worst enemies. They want to, they're trained to finish no matter what. You got to
Sure.
finish.
Of course. Is there any kind of like protocol? Is there anything like they give you a, I don't know, like a pamphlet saying these are the new rules? Like how do they go over to you like what to do when someone gets hurt or and how that changes over time?
Well, they kind of sit you down and they talk to you and they tell you little things like, for example, look at the eyes. For first thing you do is look at the eyes, and you know there are signs there. Are they paying attention? Are they making eye contact with you when you speak to them? Are they actually responding? Is there anything there? There's a little thing that they told us that if you grab their hand and squeeze, the natural reaction would be to squeeze back.
Right.
If they don't squeeze back, then that means that something is off. And the talent is all aware of that as well. That if the referee comes over and squeezes your hand and you don't squeeze back, the referee's going to stop the match,
Right.
or at least call someone over from medical to check them out.
Isn't it crazy when you think of like when you started in the 80s and 90s, it was like the wild wild west, and now all these protocols. I mean, it's great for the talent. You know how
Right.
things have evolved over the years. It's tremendous. Have you ever had to stop a match for the safety of a talent?
If I can't remember the specific match, but it has happened. For me, it hasn't happened on television. Thankful. Well, I don't want to say thankfully, but it hasn't happened on television or pay per view or anything like that. But at house shows where there have been times where you got to just, you're going to get heat from the boys afterwards, but they're going to understand really.
Sure.
We just stay down, relax, relax. You don't have to do this. This, their mindset is go, go, go.
Of course.
Get her done.
Yeah.
Uh, but at, I hate to say that the house show is less important. It isn't because you are drawing a house, you are drawing an audience. But at the same time, um, if something happens there, you know, you're not doing it for television. You're not doing it to further an angle. You're not doing it to get yourself over in front of the television audience as well.
Right.
So better to be cautious and make sure you're good for television or pay per view or in the future.
The people in Duluth will get over it, right?
Yeah, probably.
um,
But then the one thing, is people will say when you do stop a match like that, now people start to go, oh, wait a minute. Maybe there is something to this because it is, people attend and it's that suspension of disbelief and they want to
Right.
believe. It's like going to a magic show. The elephant's really not disappearing,
Sure.
but you don't know how it's done and
Right.
you're entertained by it and you just sit back and go, okay, for this 30 minutes, an hour or an hour and a half, whatever this show is, I'm going to believe that the elephant disappeared, you know?
So where can people find you, Jimmy?
Well, you can find me on, of course, social media. I still call it Twitter at Jimmy Korderas, on Instagram at Real Jimmy Korderas. I do a podcast weekly with some other referees and former referees, Brian Hebner and Daniel Spencer, who's currently the head referee at TNA, called Reffing It Up. And I got to give a shout out to RJ, who's our producer, because if it wasn't for him, we'd be clueless. But anyways, what could we do? We only know how to count to three. And also here in Canada, I do a radio show on TSN Radio and iHeartRadio with Donnie De Silva, who's a well-known wrestling personality here in Canada, called Huge Pop Radio. And, we do a weekly radio show. It's an hour long on linear radio, but the website, hugepopradio.com, you can catch the full version because we do interviews with current and past superstars. And you can only play, because it is radio, you can only play like a 12-minute clip from it. And a lot of times these interviews will be an hour and a bit. And wrote a book a little while back called The Three Count: My Life in Stripes as a WWE referee. I think it's still available out there on Amazon or wherever you find books. And